Good afternoon, everybody. I was elected to this job to fix problems. And Jack Kennedy once famously said, the governor is to choose. And I've got a legislature that doesn't want to make a choice when it deals with a problem that we've had confronting this state for going on well over a generation. That's our deteriorating roads and bridges and rail. And we've had a number of different options on the table to fix this in a credible way that takes care of our future. Neither the Republicans or the Democrats, especially in the Senate, are willing to make a choice right now. Obviously, the Republican plan, which ended up being taking money from the rainy day fund, no bill, no plan to vote on it. Instead, they wanted to filibuster for 30 hours and waste all of our time taking barbs from the sidelines. I've had a number of plans before the House and the Senate. The trucks only tolling plan, which we had, is a bill ready to go with the votes ready to go if we can get people to vote. Right now, the Senate Democrats were worried that with 30 hours of filibuster, they may not be able to get their people together. Maybe we'd have to wait another week. Maybe we'd have to wait a few more weeks. I think it's time to take a pause. If these guys aren't willing to vote and step up, I'm going to solve this problem. And right now, we're going to go back to the way we've done it for years in this state when we just kept kicking the can down the road. We both agree, Republicans and Democrats, we need $19 or $20 billion. That included $200 million additional to what we had before. So I'm going to do that out of bonding. I hate to do it this way. It's bonding in place of other things that are priorities, but right now, there's no other option on the table. And I really urge the House and the Senate, in particular the Senate, on both sides of the issue. You've got a bill, you know what you want to do, you want to take it from the rainy day fund, you want to do tractor trailers, but don't say, I can't make up my mind and I need another week, I need another week, I need another week. I've heard that for a year, and I've lost patience. We're going to fix our transportation plan and are ready to work with anybody who has a constructive alternative.
Are you declaring truck-only toll dead?
I'm saying I've got a bill, a plan on the table. I need House and Senate ready to vote. If they're not ready to vote now, the bill is on their desk. It's up to them.
Are you ready to look at the Republican plan seriously?
They have a Republican plan. I mean, they've been talking about the rainy day fund idea. I haven't seen a bill. I haven't seen anything. I think it's a lousy idea, but I want them to vote. They've got an alternative. Don't just sit on the sidelines, Mark, and say, I'm going to filibuster for 30 hours. You're elected to make some choices. I'm ready for them to vote on their plan.
They put out a statement that they want 5 days to pull things together. So you obviously, you've heard versions of this before. Is it fair to say that they don't have credibility for you to give them another 5 days on that plan?
Yeah, they've asked for another week, another month, for, let's say, 6 months. So I said, finally, enough. We're going to go forward. We're going to put in place our plan to fix transportation. Look, taking money from tractor-trailer trucks, most of which come from out of state, is obviously a better solution, lower cost money, not all paid for by the taxpayers of the state, but they couldn't get around to voting on it. So I said, let's hit the pause button. I'm going to go forward with bonding to do this. I hope you can step up and make a tough vote later.
Just to be clear, no vote during this current session that we're on here, correct? Just to be clear on that, you're not ruling this out.
I'm not pushing it at this point. The ball is in their court. They were not ready to vote. They agreed we were going to vote on Thursday. Everybody said that to me less than 5 days ago. Here it is Thursday tomorrow, and they said, not yet, maybe next week. I've heard that in this building for the last year, and I think you've all heard it for 30 years. This is a place that specializes in kicking the can down the road, and I don't accept it.
So what's the bond package gonna look like now? So how much of the bond?
It's gonna have to be,
1.7 billion?
remember, prioritize progress. They said, look, we're gonna prioritize transportation. I am as well. That $200 million that we were gonna pay for with out-of-state tractor-trailer trucks is now gonna have to come out of the bond bill in place of other priorities. We can't bond for everything.
How much of a dent will that $200 million make in terms of our infrastructure needs?
Enough. Remember, we had both Republicans and Democrats who agreed that we needed at least 19 or 20 billion. We both came up with plans to pay for it. You know what those two plans were. Neither the Republicans nor the Democrats are willing to vote on the plans they have. So short of that, I can go forward and do it out of bonding, and that's what I'm going to do.
But it will still take care of a lot of things you
It would take care of 2030. That was the build we've had for the last, 3-4 months. People know what those priorities are. They know what those projects are. And is it the best way to fund it? No. Is it 100% paid for by the taxpayers of Connecticut? Yes. Are the interest rates going to be a little bit more? Yes. Is it a smart way to go? No. But it's a plausible way to get this thing going.
If you line $200 million out of the bonding proposal, they may not vote for that either. They have to vote for it before you can bring it up at the bonding commission.
They're going to have a bond bill, then I have a bond commission. Everybody knows that I can't just layer on more debt, transportation over and above everybody's wish list of other bonding projects. I explained that to the leadership. I think there's a certain understanding that we have a cap on how much we can borrow. So transportation will crowd out some other priorities until they come up with a better way to pay for things.
So is the total still gonna be 1.7 billion?
Yes,
Bonding?
yeah. I'm not going above that.
Is this gonna mess up your debt diet, or you're saying you're gonna reallocate, and it's not?
Reallocate.
You're gonna reallocate it?
You just can't keep adding on debt. That's what this building has done for the last 50 years. That's why we have a special transportation fund that's going underwater. That's why our fixed costs are going through the roof. We've all agreed on 1.7. That's a, small reduction for where we've been for the last 10 years. But we cannot increase that.
But you'll have to cross out some things on the bonding bill that you thought were gonna be okay and approved, so that you can make up for the revenue you
That's
thought
exactly
was
right.
going.
That's what prioritized progress was. We were gonna prioritize transportation over other things. Now I'm afraid the rubber hits the road. We've gotta figure out what those other things are that we can't afford to pay for right now.
Is there a circumstance where you'll take money from the emergency reserve?
No,
None whatsoever,
none.
including to pay down pensions, to free up payments to the pensions?
You know this better than anybody else. This legislature, less than 3 years ago, said we need a rainy day fund to protect us in the cases of a severe recession. I'm trying to hold them to the very promise they made to the taxpayers less than 3 years ago. No.
Will you still pursue the federal funding? That would have been.
Who's hiding back there?
Hi, Caitlin.
Hey, Caitlin. Yes. As you know, the federal funding needed independent recurring revenue streams, so we got to take a look at how best to structure that. But I'm not going to lose that opportunity to get the lowest cost financing. Is it more complicated? Yes.
You're gonna borrow to borrow, that's what it sounds like. Bonding is borrowing, and you are going to do these improvements.
In my plan, Mark, we were borrowing against out-of-state tractor-trailer trucks providing half the money. Now we're borrowing against the taxpayers of the state of Connecticut, but we are fixing our transportation
But
system.
you were gonna use that money from the trucks to pay off a loan from the feds. Now you're borrowing from the taxpayers to pay off borrowing from the feds? I don't understand how you can do it. You can't borrow to pay off a loan.
What we had was a recurring revenue stream when we had
Right, but you're not gonna have-
tractor-trailer
you're not
trucks
gonna have-
providing that revenue stream. It was an independent, reliable revenue stream. I was going to be able to leverage that 5 or 6 to 1 with federal money at less than 2%. An extraordinary opportunity that is slipping away from us because we have a Senate that cannot make up its mind.
But you can't-
You're right, the alternative right now is to borrow, general obligation, higher interest rates, so that we can, at least bring our roads and bridges to a state of good repair, which is an absolute necessity.
If you could do this all over again, how would you approach it? What have you learned from this, and how would you approach it differently?
I've learned the fact that, that they haven't done this in the last 30 years says, this is not that tough a vote. Getting tractor-trailer trucks from Omaha to pay for half of our infrastructure, but it was an impossibly tough vote for folks on both sides of the aisle in the legislature, especially in the state Senate.
Do you think you underestimated that?
I guess I did. I thought this was the right thing to do. I think we were very flexible in terms of how we customized this thing. I kept listening to the senators to come up with alternatives that maybe would get us over the finish line. But at the end of the day, they just don't want to make up their mind on this.
How does this redefine your relationship with the Democratic leadership of the legislature?
We'll see. Look, I'm a little disappointed. I think you're elected to make choices. And if we make good choices, we really get this state going again. You're not elected to say, I can't make up my mind, or I don't want to vote this week, I want to vote next week, and just push it off. Something we've done in this building for a generation. But, look, every day I gotta roll up my sleeves, sit down and talk to the leadership, because we still have things we gotta do together.
If the leadership follows up on the statement that they emailed a few moments ago, that they actually do something next week, would you accept that? I mean, I know at this moment, for reasons you well expressed, you don't believe them. You've heard this before. But what happens if in fact they schedule a vote for next Wednesday or Thursday?
If they want to go ahead, go ahead. I've heard this every 2 weeks for 50 weeks. And so in the meantime, I can't put everything else on hold, bond bill, agenda, investments, waiting for them to deliver on what they wanted to do. You know, it was just Saturday they said we're going to vote tomorrow.
Do you feel that you have been misled? In other words, that you've been told multiple times that they have the votes, whether they got 18 in the Senate and they were very comfortable in the House? Do you feel you've been misled and made to believe that they had the votes and that they were going to vote and that this was going to happen?
Misled in the sense that I thought they were going to vote. I thought they were going to vote on Thursday. We had a handshake and agreement on that. And obviously, a 30-hour filibuster was somewhat upsetting to some of the members, and they have a hard time getting the members there for 30 hours. I mean, how does that help, throwing, sand into the gears? That's all that Republican filibuster is all about. Come forward with your own plan. That's why you have a Republican Party. Come up with some constructive alternative. Just don't say no.
Well, they were, in fairness to them, that was a reaction in large measure to this extraordinary plan that the Democratic majority was proposing. The idea of first somehow doing synchronized debates, and then the more recent one is the idea of splitting the bill in two, so both chambers would have to go on the record at roughly the same time. What did you think of those kind of gymnastics to get this thing to the finish line?
I thought it was a little weird, but I didn't care, because they were going to vote. And you can vote simultaneously, you can vote one after the other, you can vote 6 here and 6 there. What do I care? Vote, make up your mind.
What about the executive order from the previous governor that, the $10 million for a tolling study? Is there any possibility of you moving unilaterally as far as you can move through that avenue?
No, big waste of time. $10 million study that I then present to a House and a Senate that still says, no, this is too tough for me to vote on. I don't know what that would accomplish. We have the facts. We know what the projects are. We know what we got to do. We know what they were going to cost. We know who's going to build them. Now we just need somebody who can make up their mind whether they want to vote on it or not.
What will the plan be now, in other words? Go ahead, Dan.
No tolls Connecticut? Do you see it as a political victory for what they say is a grassroots movement?
It's a grassroots movement to do nothing. I mean, I heard their forum the other day, down there. I never heard them once mention prioritized progress. I never heard them once mention taking money from the rainy day fund. All they said was no, no, no. So that plays right into a building that's just happy to do nothing.
But is it a victory?
It's a defeat for the people of Connecticut, I can tell you that.
Your plan was 19 billion, 19.1 billion. What you're contemplating now, what are we talking about? It's obviously
Same thing.
downside.
No,
Same thing?
same thing.
Same thing?
We were just going to do 200 million out of the tractor trailers. Now we're going to do 200 million out of bonding. But I'm coming up with that number. The one thing Republicans and Democrats both agreed on over the last 6 months is at a minimum we needed that 19.1 to bring our roads and bridges to a state of good repair and speed up our rail a little bit. Everybody agreed on that number, but neither of them can agree on a vote on how to pay for it.
And you will be able to get the federal money. You're confident you'll still be able to get the federal money. Back to Mark's question here about that it's not going to be the tolls dedicated revenue stream, but you are confident that you can still get the federal money, which you
We're going to
definitely
try.
need.
It's more complicated, but we're going to try.
Yeah, that's.
At least the gasoline revenues are still a recurring revenue stream. Look, we talked to the Trump administration a lot. The idea of an independent tolling revenue stream was something very appealing that would have given us an advantage there. But we're going to still try, Chris.
Yeah, I guess, I think that goes to Mark's question earlier. So this $200 million is more of a stopgap while you figure out what would be the recurring source of revenue to secure the TIPIA loan?
200 million, maybe we'll have to do 200 million again next year, so we can keep doing what we gotta do to fix our roads and bridges. I'm hoping these guys maybe can decide on a vote between now and then, but I gotta get started.
Also, in the future, after the next election, I just want to be clear about your position in the future. After the November election, you may have a whole new group of people in here. Are you not ruling out possibly going for tolls next year in 2021, or what are you ruling in or out?
I've got the best plan on the table, and I'd like people to consider it. Right now, they're not willing to consider it. Nor are they willing to consider the Republican plan. So I think right now, I wait to see whether these folks are ready to step up.
If this-
They're not ready right now.
If this continues, right, and what I mean is, right now, the Democratic leadership is at odds with you. They're publicly saying, no, this is still alive, we're gonna try in the next 5 days, and you're basically saying, I don't believe you, and it's time to move on. What does this do to your ability to governor for the remainder of what's pretty much a 3-year term?
Prove me wrong. You say you're gonna vote on 5 days, God bless you, vote. Then I don't have to, go to the bonding things. Look, we still have a lot of agenda items we share in common. We gotta put together a budget next year. We wanna do a budget that maintains our priorities. I've worked with people on that. I work with people where we agree.
Well, we seem to be getting conflicting messages from the Democratic leadership, as some of my colleagues referenced before.
Yeah.
There was a statement from the Senate Democratic leadership saying that they want to have the vote next week. I've just checked the old inbox, and from Speaker Arasimowitz. Over the past 4 weeks of trying to coordinate the scenario and date to pass a truck-only tolls transportation plan, it has become very clear that the political will to act was not there. I advise the governor that he needs to do what he has to do, and legislatures will have to accept whatever plan he decides to go with now. I've always believed a tolling plan that captures out-of-state vehicles is the right thing to do to help move our state forward and protect Connecticut taxpayers from paying the whole tab for our infrastructure needs. We were poised to act in the House tomorrow, but we need our colleagues in the Senate as well, and apparently their ability to also act was tenuous. What does that say to the people of Connecticut? What are they supposed to make out of that? We have these.
I think Joe's comments speak for themselves. I think they were ready to vote. Senate thought they needed a little more time, as they've suggested a number of times before. And in the meantime, the people of Connecticut should know that we're gonna fix our infrastructure. Is it my preferred way to do it? No, but we're gonna get started. And I welcome the Senate and the House to come forward and vote on a bill at their leisurely time frame.
Earlier today, you told the Council of Small Towns that you were prepared to go forward with some of the town aid that's been held back. Is that still operative, as they used to say? in the
Yeah,
House?
I think it is, Paz. Look, this is something they put in their budget, they counted on. I said, well, we're ready to go for it. I said it's a little complicated because we'll prioritize progress, there might be a crowding out. I think I know that we're just doing an additional 200 million out of bonding, so there'll be money to honor our commitments to the towns and cities.
You met with.
When you spoke to them, did you know what was gonna happen today, or was this something that became clear to you only in the meeting an hour or so ago?
The latter.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you met with Democratic leadership about 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
Just from my perspective, it didn't look like it went well. I mean, Senator Arasimowitz, or excuse me, Representative Arasimowitz said to ask you about the situation. So can you just give us a little play-by-play of what happened in that meeting and where everybody was?
I don't think that's interesting. What I did say was, you're supposed to vote. You've got to make up your mind and vote. You can't just keep waiting. For the last 30 years, we have hoped this is a problem that goes away. That's an MO around here that I don't accept. And I was quite clear on that subject, and they said we need more time.
What responsibility does the House Democrats have in this whole thing, in your estimation?
I'm a little less interested in back and forth. What I can tell you is the House is ready to vote tomorrow. They had noticed their members, they had the votes, and they were ready to go.
But not first.
How do I care? Just vote.
Well, no, but-
I mean,
but it's
you can
not-
go
it's-
third for all I
it's not
care, vote.
insignificant. It's one thing for them to say, oh yeah, we're ready to vote, but yet they don't. It's within their power.
They had an agreement, Paz, you know this, going back 5 days, that they're gonna vote simultaneously, and that was an agreement that seemed to make some sense to me.
Well, that was the speaker's insistence, from my understanding. So if.
No, the Senate came up with this idea. They came up with voting for 6 gantries and 6 gantries at
Well,
the same
that-
time.
yes.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Which one was gonna vote for the Greenwich Country?
Which
I was gonna vote for them both.
Which priorities do you think will be, kind of crowded out by not having that 200 million to play with in the bond package?
I don't know. Let me look. This has all happened in the last, hour. But it's really important we have a legislature that can stand up and not just play games, and not just say, I'm gonna filibuster for 30 hours, or give me just another week, or just another week, or just another week. I think that's a mentality that's gotten this state into big problems over the last 30 years. And so am I a little hot on this? Do I really think it's time for folks to step up and make their choices? You bet I am. In the meantime, I'm moving forward. We're gonna fix our transportation system, not in an optimal way, but we're gonna do it in a serious way. Thanks, everybody.